Valentine's Day, romance is in the air. What better time to talk about one of the greatest love stories in history? Me and Sly. What is up, everybody, and welcome to my kickoff for the Rocky review series. And what better time to talk about one of the greatest love stories ever told than on February 14th. So it felt like all of the stars were aligning. We got Creed 3 coming out in a couple of weeks. I have yet to be able to review all of these films on this channel, and Rocky has always been one of my favorite film franchises. So strap in, tighten up the glove laces, because we're going, baby. And this first film is a really interesting movie to talk about for a multitude of reasons. Not only is it just a great movie, one of the most celebrated films of all time, but it's also an awesome story of inspiration for Sylvester Stallone himself and how he got this movie made, got himself out of the slump that he was in, kind of mirroring the journey of the character of Rocky. And then, of course, it goes on to be easily the most popular, most successful, most beloved sports movie franchise of all time. So what is it about this film? What is it about this character that continues to resonate with people? And for a film that is just a few years shy of being 50 years old, why does it still have such an impact? Why does it still continue to gain new fans all the way to modern time? Well, really quick before I get into it, if you've gone 15 rounds with acne and aging and you want to find out how to repair your skin and keep it glistening for the next fight, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video, Geology. As I've gotten older, skincare has become one of my growing concerns, and I've put a lot of effort in working it into my daily routine. And the brand that has helped me do that the most is Geology. Geology is a 6-time award-winning skin, hair, and body care company with over 6,000 5-star reviews. They create simple and effective skincare and hair care routines that are customized just for you and include these little instructional cards so that you always know what you're supposed to use and when you're supposed to use it. Their products are built around just a handful of powerful proven ingredients that have been trusted by dermatologists for decades. Geology skincare helps you fight acne, reduce oiliness, prevent wrinkles, combat dark and puffy under eyes, have smoother hydrated skin, and target signs of aging. And now the best in the skincare game have expanded their reach into hair care and body care, with co-washes, shampoos, conditioners, body washes, deodorants, and so much more. My favorite of their newer products is easily their deodorant line, but I would be lying if I didn't tell you how much I've really started to enjoy their body washes, and I'm somebody who typically sticks to bar soaps. I'm somebody who's never 100% satisfied with the gel or powdery deodorants that are available in the stores, and the Geology products not only smell great, but they're comfortable on the skin and they don't leave any of those gross stains on your shirts. Just click the link in the video description and take their 30-second diagnostic quiz. Tell them about your skin and your goals, and a team of dermatologists will design a personalized routine just for you that is shipped directly to your door. And right now, for a limited time, Geology is hooking you up with an insane offer. Use my code CODY70 or scan the QR code on the screen and they will give you an exclusive 70% off of their award-winning skincare trial set. On top of that, they are giving you an exclusive bonus offer on one of their brand new skin, hair, and body products of your choice when you add it to your trial. So take charge of your skin, body, and hair today by using Geology. That's Geologie. And thank you to Geology for sponsoring today's video. Now, before we dive into the film itself and the character of Rocky, one of the most awesome details regarding this film is the story of its inception. So a pretty well-known story, but for those that might not know it, Sylvester Stallone was actually homeless for a little while. And he was homeless during the time that he came up with the inspiration for this story, supposedly wrote the entire screenplay in like 3 days, and went around shopping it to studios, to different producers. It was essentially his last lifeline before he just was at the end of his rope. And many studios were interested in it. Some of them wanted to put it on TV, some of them wanted to make it a full motion picture, but one thing that pretty much everybody agreed on was that they wanted this to be led by a proven actor. And Stallone believed in this character so much, believed in his own work, and felt so personally attached to it that he refused any offer that was given to him that did not allow him to play the lead character, to the point where he, as a homeless man, denied a 6-figure deal for the film because they wanted to take it from him and let somebody else play Rocky.
You're gonna regret this the rest of your life.
Both seconds of it.
I mean, for the inspiration that the character of Rocky has, for the themes and the messages that come from his story about the underdog, about, inspiring others, about rising from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs. It's just such a cool mirror of the journey from Sylvester Stallone being homeless to eventually one of the biggest movie stars in history, then the character of Rocky from the Italian stallion in Philadelphia to being the heavyweight champion of the world. So I've always loved that detail. It just makes the movie, almost the themes of it become even richer because it totally mirrors real life. So eventually he got the producers that was kind of helping him, most interested in the film, to agree to let him play Rocky. And then we were off to the races. We have the film. And this little screenplay that could, this idea from a man with little to no acting experience, with no pull whatsoever in Hollywood, no previous writing credits, and a man fighting like hell to bring that character and that story to life in the way that he envisioned, from putting pen to paper, leads to one of the most celebrated movies and franchises of all time, and a film that went on to win multiple Oscars, including Best Picture.
And to all the Rockies in the world, I love you.
Thank you.
Now, with all that being said, why do I like the film? What is my take on it? Well, starting off with the positives, the thing that I love the most about this first Rocky film is that it's about so much more than boxing. And to me, that's why I always love sports movies. I am not a sports guy whatsoever. You will have to strap me to a chair to get me to watch a football game. But I love sports dramas and sports films whenever they're good. And this is an example of one where the boxing match, the big fight building up throughout the film between Rocky and Apollo Creed, that might as well be a subplot amongst everything else that is going on. This is not a movie that's just about a guy going to step in the ring and fight the heavyweight champion of the world and maybe become the new champion. It's about a man realizing his potential. It's about a man pushing himself to his fullest limits. It's about a man finally getting the love that he feels he deserves and has fought for, even more than anything in the boxing world. I mean, all of those elements of the film are kind of what the entire story of the movie is about. Oh, and by the way, by the end of it, we have a boxing match as well. You're introduced to the character, and he's, a low-rung boxer. He fights in little clubs. He makes bullshit money. I mean, he wins a fight and gets a gigantic scar on his head, walks away with like $40 in the first 10 minutes of the film. He doesn't really have anybody's respect in the Philadelphia boxing industry, even the trainers. You got Mick, who is the one who owns the club that he has fought at and trained at for 6+ years, and just thinks of him as a bum. And then, of course, you have the very quiet, timid, and shy Adrian that he has very subtly tried to woo for God knows how long. And even his best friend, Paulie, is an absolute piece of shit. He's a guy where there's not really anything going on in his life that is really worth celebrating. There's not really anything going on in his life that he can be proud of. And the movie's about his journey of rising above all of that, about getting the things that he deserves, getting the things that he feels like he should be having, a better life, more notoriety, more of a boxing career to be proud of, a woman that he loves, a friend that he can respect, a job that is not breaking people's legs or doing everything that you possibly can not to break somebody's leg for the local mob boss. And I think that's resonated with people for so long because that's situations, at least one or more of them, that is so down to earth, that is so human, that is so relatable that anybody can watch this and see a piece of themselves in Rocky, can see a piece of themselves where they haven't really tried to strive for things from their fullest potential, where they felt like the world kind of had a bit of their thumb pressing them down, when they felt like the love of their life was out of reach no matter how hard they tried for it. And sometimes all it takes is seizing those things that you want, seizing those things that you think you deserve, and sometimes it just takes a little opportunity, like somebody who is extremely vain and gives you the opportunity to finally show what your full potential is. Then, of course, you just have to talk about the character of Rocky, one of the most beloved and celebrated characters in movie history, and there's so many elements to him of why he is so beloved, why he is a timeless character, why it has been a huge treat for us movie fans to be able to see this character throughout multiple stages of his life, even going into the Creed franchise, and we'll see, maybe more in the future. We got our fingers crossed. But it's the writing of the character, it's what the character stands for, as well as that likability that Sly's performance brings to it. And, I really think that even though He had no acting experience, very little acting experience. They could have went out and found somebody who is an Oscar caliber actor to knock this character out of the park, but there's something so human, there's something so relatable that Sylvester Stallone brings to this character that's a character I cannot think of anybody ever playing. Like, there's all kinds of characters throughout movie history where the character is always bigger than the actor. You know, you can have another Freddy Krueger, in my opinion. You can have another Luke Skywalker. There's all these iconic characters where you could see somebody taking a spin on that and doing something equally or possibly even better than we have come to know that character for. But there is no other Rocky. Rocky is Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone is Rocky. And there are very few, maybe count them on one hand, characters that are so ingrained into the actor, and the actor is such a huge piece of why that character works and why that character is beloved, that you can't separate the two without losing the character completely. There's something about the way all of the elements of Rocky work together. Of course, there's the underdog side that's inspiring, where you got this guy on this low on the totem pole that just trains and fights and has the heart of gold and will push himself all the way to the end, way further than anybody would give him credit for, mostly Apollo Creed in this first film. But it's all the other quieter moments too. It's his simple-minded, uneducated way of looking at the world, and the way that he kind of explains things, the way that his dialect is, the way that, you know, he talks to Adrian, the way that he expresses things to Adrian, the way that he stands up for himself while at the same time trying to be a very gentle guy. He's a very strong person. He's got a very dark job, but he's always trying to be that neighborhood guy that everybody can trust, that everybody can have a bit of respect for. Even yanking a little girl off of the corner and dragging her all the way home and lecturing her the whole way just for her to not thank him, give him an obscene gesture and walk inside. And he's just like, well, that's another night in Philadelphia. I've helped somebody. It's just something always so good-hearted about the character of Rocky that I just love him. I love watching all of these movies and rewatching them and re-experiencing this guy's life, because so many aspects of the character of Rocky are just timelessly entertaining, timelessly inspiring, and just an endearing character that you love to watch. He's just like a warm blanket. He's comforting. And then, of course, being that we're talking about this first film, you got to talk about the beginning of the relationship between Rocky and Adrian, one of the most celebrated movie couples of all time, and for good reason. And one of the things that I think makes this couple so timeless, and one that people attach themselves to much more than others, is that it's not your typical Hollywood romance script. It's not your typical movie couple to where everything is so shiny and glossy and candy-coated and everything's perfect and beautiful and butterflies. No, it's not that at all. It's very grounded. It's very kind of uncomfortable at certain times, and just like every other element in this film, it's very realistic, and you can kind of endear yourself to these characters more. You can see yourselves in these characters more because it portrays romance with the everyday difficulties that a lot of us have experienced before. And the way that these two characters match each other so perfectly in the strangest ways, it makes them one of the most celebrated couples, because you have totally different people that are perfect for each other. You have Rocky, who is very extroverted, that he's big and strong, and, you know, he's out there, he talks all the time, but, you know, he's also a little bit more simple-minded. And then you have Adrian, who's obviously a very smart person, but is just so shy and so reserved and so timid, where she has got a cripplingly low self-esteem, and she just lives in this shell. And you can see that it's because of the relationship that she has with her brother Paulie, and the verbal abuse, maybe even physical abuse that he puts upon her. This very toxically codependent relationship that they have. There's even a line that kind of hints that maybe her mother was equally as verbally abusive and talked down to her, and so she's just this person that doesn't feel like she deserves friendship, doesn't deserve love. And even though she likes Rocky, she is so scared to open herself up at all, because all she knows is discomfort, all she knows is mistreatment. And it's the bringing of those two characters together that aids both of them into being the person that they can be. Or Rocky really brings her out of her shell and shows her that she is deserving of love, and shows her that she has all these qualities, and gets her to where she actually stands up to Paulie and realizes her self-worth and realizes the mistreatment that he has put on her. And then on the other side, you got Rocky, who gives him something to fight for. Like, the movie is not really about the victory of whether or not he wins against Apollo Creed or not. It's about whether or not he wins the victory of getting Adrian's love, whether he has the victory of her heart by the end of it. To the way that you get the end of the film, and they know that by the way that they shoot it and present it. It's not really about this big victory of whose arm's going to get tossed up at the end as the winner. When they actually crown Apollo Creed, it's in the background. It's barely even the forefront of the picture, and it's just skated away from him so quickly. And they're talking to Rocky, and you've got everybody trying to talk to him after the fight, and their voices are almost muffled. Like, hey, Rock, what's going on? Hey, you going to do a rematch with Rock? No, Adrian, no, Adrian. And he doesn't want to hear them, and as the audience, you're not paying attention to what they're saying, because all you're waiting for is that moment where they embrace, finally, and declare their love for each other. And when they do, the movie's over, because that's the victory. And all the other characters in this movie, and then of course as they go on through this franchise, are great as well. Carl Weathers is an absolute icon with Apollo Creed, to where his legacy has actually become the forefront of the franchise in the Creed movies. And the way that his relationship develops, especially after this movie, is fascinating. He's an awesome character, and Carl Weathers plays the character so well too. Just that total opposite fighter of Rocky, where he's all about the flash, he's all about the big top hats and the American flag and the flash and the reporters and the way that the PR is going to go. He's the businessman, he's the showman, where Rocky is the down and dirty Philadelphia boy that's coming out of the back alleys. So love that character, love what he brings to it. And then of course you've got Paulie, who I'll talk a little bit more later, a very complicated character, played very well for what he is supposed to be, very unlikable, and yet somehow you can't help but love the guy just a little bit. It's a very weird mix. And then you have characters like Mickey, who maybe even more so than Rocky and Adrian kind of embody that discomforting relationship there, to where they don't even seem like they like each other through most of the film. They almost seem like antagonistic towards each other. We're introduced to Mickey as the guy that kicked Rocky out of his locker and said he's not even worth a locker. And as the movie goes on, you start to get a little bit more of an idea that it's not this dislike for Rocky, it's this disappointment. It's him not realizing his potential, and he's just a leg breaker.
You want to know? I want to know! Okay, I'm going to tell you. Because you had the talent to become a good fighter. And instead of that, you became a leg breaker. Some cheap, second-rate loan shark.
And I love that scene where Mickey comes to Rocky and sees that he's going to get this opportunity to actually fulfill his potential, and offers his services as a manager, and kind of offers up all of his trials and tribulations that he went through in his boxing career and his life and his youth, and kind of trying to put them both together, finally getting Rocky to go for what he actually can achieve, and at the same time getting a trainer that has been there and has failed and can tell you what not to do. And he just lays his heart out there for Rocky just to crush it out of all of the anger that he's had for Mickey the whole movie. And he's ranting and raving through the bathroom and punching the door, and Mickey just listens to the whole thing from the stairwell.
Talk about your pride. What about my pride, Mick? At least you had a pride.
I love the way that that scene goes down, and again, just brings that very realistic quality about how characters are brought together and everything's not so shiny and glossy in the real world. And then finally, of course, this movie has so many iconic elements when it comes to the fighting and the training and the boxing. I mean, you've got the whole thing with Rocky fighting the frozen meat and the beef carcasses that is almost synonymous with the character. Again, going for that kind of down and dirty, grounded side of boxing, the street level guy. You got Apollo Creed that's out there with the most expensive and flashy trainers and the big rings and the TV cameras, and then you got Rocky that's bundled up in this shitty little coat in a little frozen food section trying to punch some dead cows. And then the running and the training sequence and the montages and the running up the stairs and throwing the fists in the air. Is there anybody that travels to the city of Philadelphia that is not immediately obligated to go to that staircase and perform that act? Is there anybody in existence? I can tell you right now, I don't give a shit if the entire city of Philadelphia gathers in that moment and laughs in my face. The moment I ever visit Philadelphia, I am running up those stairs, I'm throwing my arms in the air, and then just for good measure, I'm gonna run to the bottom and run back up a couple of more times, because you gotta do it. Absolutely iconic moment. And now moving on to the mixed elements, I can tell you right now I don't have any negatives with this film. I honestly think it's one of the best movies ever made, and I think almost everything about it has aged wonderfully for a nearly 50-year-old film. As far as the mix, the first one is the character of Paulie. Now, Paulie is a character that I do like. Paulie is a character that I think is very important to this franchise. I don't think it would be the same without him. And, he's more tolerable in other movies in this franchise than he is in this film necessarily. But there is always this kind of abrasiveness about the character of Paulie to where you can't help but love the aggravating, angry little bastard, and at the same time, because he is so physically and especially verbally abusive to the characters that you love, like Rocky and Adrian, there is always the same experience when you watch this franchise, especially this first film, to where you kind of want Rocky to strangle the shit out of him. Like, he's just such a despicable character that you can't even put your finger on why you still like him, because there's no likable qualities about him. There's nothing that he does to redeem himself in this movie. There's barely anything that he does to redeem himself in the franchise, to the point where he eventually, and we can't hold this movie accountable for it, completely fucks over Rocky a couple of times and is just a huge burden on their lives. And yet he's still the best friend, Paulie. And you can never even really put your finger on why the fuck Rocky is friends with this guy. I mean, at first I kind of think, oh, you know, maybe he's just friends with him to get to Adrian. Maybe he's a means to an end. Maybe he's a stepping stone guy. But no, he's basically his right-hand man, his best friend, all the way through to the Creed films, to where he's telling Adonis about him and said, this was my best friend. Why? And the other mixed element is complicated to talk about, and it's not necessarily mixed for my experience with it. It's mixed because I do feel like this is the one scene in the movie that has aged pretty poorly, and I fear that it's a scene that's going to block a lot of people from really understanding the point of it. And watching the rest of the movie and understanding that that was a means to an end, and there was things that happened there that maybe are discomforting and maybe are hard to watch and are not okay in today's climate, but the end result merited it to a certain degree. I'm trying to use my words carefully. So you have the first date between Rocky and Adrian. And from start all the way up to the point where she finally opens up and finally lets herself out of that shell and finally embraces the love of Rocky, all the way up to that moment, that first date is uncomfortable as fuck.
I don't think I belong here.
It's okay.
I don't belong here.
Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!
I mean, right from the get, you got Rocky who's talking to Paulie. Paulie's like, hey, you're going to take my sister out on Thanksgiving. First of all, very weird time for a first date, just in general. That's kind of uncomfortable. But Rocky the entire time, hey, Paulie, is it okay? Does she know I'm coming? Does she know I'm coming? And Paulie's an asshole, so he's going to tell him yes when he's never warned her at all. Immediately they get into the house and she is shook. She is uncomfortable. She is, razzled because Rocky's here and she didn't know anything about it. And it's been clear throughout the movie through subtle hints that she does like Rocky. She's not really reciprocating his flirting. She's not really adding much to the conversation, but she kind of snickers at his little jokes. And when he says goodnight, and she's like, goodnight, Rocky, just want to make sure that she says goodnight. You can tell that she likes him. And so clearly she's rattled because she likes him and he's seeing her in disarray, where she's messy, she's not dressed, and she's cooking, and she's in housewife mode. She's very uncomfortable, very upset from the moment that he gets there. Paulie does the Paulie thing, verbally abuses her, forces her into the room, yells at her, saying you're going to do all this, forcing her to go, and goes to the point of actually throwing her Thanksgiving dinner out into the street. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, talk about a catalyst for a date. Let me throw away your fucking dinner that you've been working on all day and force you to go out with this guy. Then she actually goes out with Rocky. And the fact that she gets herself dressed and very dolled up very quickly shows that, again, there's a part of her that does like Rocky and does want to go, but she's just so sheltered in such a shell that it's uncomfortable for her to be in a situation where she feels like she might get what she wants because she's so used to everything going so wrong. They go on their date, they have the nice little skating rink and the nice conversation and everything, and then you get to the point where Rocky is at his house and asks her if she wants to come inside. And she says clearly multiple times, no, I shouldn't. No, I don't want to. No, I don't feel comfortable. And he more or less forces her in by just leaving her outside. He's like, I'm going to go inside. You come on in, and just leaves her. Doesn't really give her a choice. So she comes in and, again, feels and expresses that she's very uncomfortable. And he's talking to her through certain things and, takes his shirt off, sits down on the couch. Come sit down. No, I shouldn't. Come sit down. I'm going to call my brother. And he kind of makes a joke out of it. It's a cute joke. Opening the window. Hey, Paulie, your sister's over here with me. But again, not letting her do what she wants to do. And it just keeps going with that tone to where she clearly expresses, I don't want to do this. I'm not comfortable. I don't want to be here. No. Even to the point where he blocks the door. Now, I say all of that with the knowledge of the way the movie goes, and especially the franchise, they are a match made in heaven. And everything that Rocky is doing in this situation that is kind of pushing her out of her comfort zone is because she needs to be pushed out of that comfort zone. For her to actually grow as a person, for her to actually live and get out of this horrible life that she has, she kind of has to be pushed to finally see, like, no, you deserve this. No, you deserve this. You can do this. You can be somewhere that is not under the thumb of your brother. You can enjoy yourself. You can actually live beyond going to work, coming home, and slaving away and being the fucking parent and the wife to your brother who's a piece of shit. And so Rocky fans and people that have watched this movie and seen it multiple times will tell you all of that. And at the same time, people that watch the movie nowadays are going to watch that and think, wow, this is really creepy. Wow, this is really uncomfortable. Wow, Rocky's kind of a scumbag. And that's just something that is just aged poorly. You couldn't do that same exact scene nowadays, I don't think. It would have to be tinkered with a little bit. And again, I think it's a good means to an end. I think it was necessary. Some people might not want to hear that. Some people might get really pissed off at me in the comment section for even saying that and saying, no, no means no.
No means no. It's like, no, it doesn't.
But in the context of the movie, in the time of 1976, to break this woman out of her horrible life and her horrible shell, he had to kind of do things that nowadays would make you think that he is an absolute creep, and again, something that has not aged well. And so that is the one scene of this movie. For everything else that's timeless and endearing and constantly appealing to multiple generations, that's the one scene of the movie that I fear a lot of people, especially women, will watch and immediately shut off and not want to see the rest of the film and not understand by watching the rest of the film or the franchise that it's okay. Everything turned out fine. There was not really any wrongdoing there. It was just uncomfortable by today's standards. But all in all, guys, this is not only one of the best sports movies ever made, it's one of the best movies ever made, and it kicked off one of my favorite franchises of all time. Absolutely love it, and it is one that, while I may not rewatch it as much as some of the flashier movies in this franchise, I always really appreciate the things that I walk away with when I do finally revisit the original Rocky. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed this, please click over here for all of my 2023 new release reviews so far. I'm also going to put my old ranking of the Rocky franchise up here that I did when Creed 2 came out. I will update it, and some things may have changed when Creed 3 comes out in a couple of weeks. Please like and share this video, hit that subscribe button, be sure to check out Geology down in the video description below. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.